Tonight, several developing stories as we come on the air. Dangerous weather, including flash flooding with millions on the move this holiday weekend. And dozens of Guatemalan children loaded onto planes for deportation until a judge stepped in. We begin with the flash flood threat in the southern plains as a record number of Americans are on the move. Highways flooded, planes halted in a major hub. And now there's word of a mid-air collision of two planes in Colorado. Beachgoers running to safety with a waterspout just offshore. And there's a rip current warning for Southern California. Our weather team has the holiday forecast. The fate of hundreds of Guatemalan children hanging in the balance. The Trump administration wants to deport them, some spending hours on planes until a federal judge blocked the flights. The latest in this extraordinary legal battle. And another battle, President Trump threatening to send troops to Chicago, possibly as soon as this week. The mayor and the Illinois governor fighting back. The president says he wants to mandate voter ID for every election in the U.S., but does he have the power to do that? Mass resumes at Annunciation Church in Minneapolis, days after the attack that killed two students. Handmade cards delivered to one of the victims, and Pope Leo speaking out against what he calls a pandemic of arms. Israel steps up its assault on Gaza City ahead of its planned invasion, a mass exodus of Palestinians, and in Israel, protesters beg President Trump to end the war. The heart-stopping video of a young boy wandering onto the monorail tracks at Hershey Park, adults yelling to the child, fearful he would fall. Finally, someone climbing up to rescue the boy. New evidence in a story that was the inspiration for movies and TV shows. Why some are now saying a hero may have murdered his own wife. At the U.S. Open, the last American man hopes to stay alive in the tournament and the showdown between two former women's champions. And not so fast, my friend. Lee Corso may be heading off to retirement, but not before we look back at his career and his legendary headgear.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us on this Sunday. I'm Mary Bruce, in for Lindsay Davis. A group of Guatemalan children are in potential legal limbo tonight. The Trump administration trying to deport them, some spending hours on planes until a federal judge blocked the flights. But we begin here tonight with the flash flood threat in parts of Texas and New Mexico. All this amid a record holiday travel rush. In Colorado, two small planes collided midair at Fort Morgan Municipal Airport, about 80 miles northeast of Denver. The airport now closed. This as delays and ground stops are piling up at some of the nation's busiest airports. This water spout in Galveston, Texas, sending tents, umbrellas, and chairs flying. Beachgoers seeking safety. Drone footage capturing these dark rain clouds hanging over the Houston area. And there's a rip current warning for Southern California. Waves up to 7 feet, hundreds rescued. Our weather team is standing by with the holiday forecast, but first, ABC's Faith Abubey leading us off.
Tonight, the FAA investigating a mid-air collision over Colorado. Around 10:40 a.m., officials say two Cessna-style planes at the small airport in northeastern Colorado collided. Images from an FAA weather camera showing a plume of smoke in the distance. It's unclear how many people were injured, but the crash comes amid the record-setting holiday travel rush. Tonight, delays and ground stops piling up at some of the nation's busiest airports. Parts of Texas slammed by strong storms and flooding rain. Drivers navigating the rising waters.
Look at that.
Swimmers running for safety in Galveston, Texas after this waterspout formed off the coast. Officials urging people to stay away from the water. Florida also seeing a heavy downpour. Flights at Miami International and Fort Lauderdale impacted by thunderstorms. Hundreds of flights delayed and canceled this weekend at Dallas-Fort Worth International. Even departures from both airports in Houston grounded for a time due to thunderstorms. The pesky delays at the same time the FAA says this Labor Day is shaping up to be the busiest in the skies for the holiday period in 15 years. The TSA expecting a record 17.4 million travelers to fly during the holiday stretch. Coast to coast, officials are urging swimmers to use caution. In Southern California, a couple hundred people were rescued after the National Weather Service warned of dangerous rip currents and waves up to 7 feet. And Mary, tomorrow will likely be another busy day at airports all across the country as holiday travelers return home. The FAA forecasting nearly 47,000 planes will be in the skies. Mary.
As they say, pack your patience. Faith, thank you. So let's get right to meteorologist Danny Beckstrom from our New York station WABC. And so, Danny, how long is this flooding threat going to last?
Well, heavy rain tonight, and it looks like another round of it possible tomorrow, Mary. We've seen the heavy rain, the thunderstorms for the past several days sweeping across the southern plains. And that threat continues tonight. Flood watch in effect from Abilene down to Austin into San Antonio. And we could see another round of heavy rain into tomorrow morning. Tomorrow in general, looking at Labor Day, the center of the country stays wet where both coasts are drier. In the east, gorgeous conditions, nice temperatures, sunny skies, with the exception being Florida, where scattered storms are possible. Now in the west, it's all about the heat. We're talking temperatures that prompt heat advisories from LA up through Sacramento. We're looking at the heat building north into Tuesday, highs in the 90s in Portland on Tuesday. And then we cool down in a big way for the Midwest. It looks like a taste of fall coming to start September by the end of the week.
Certainly feels like summer is over. Yeah. Danny, thank you so much. And next tonight, another showdown between the judiciary and the White House over immigration. A federal judge temporarily blocking the Trump administration from deporting potentially hundreds of Guatemalan children, some just moments away from departure, already boarded on planes until a judge stepped in. Here's ABC's senior White House correspondent Selina Wang.
Tonight, a group of Guatemalan children trapped in legal limbo as their legal advocates race to stop their deportation. They argue the Trump administration violated their rights to due process and ignored protections for children who cross the border alone. A federal judge stepping in, grounding those flights with children already boarded, ordering the government to stop any effort to transfer, repatriate, remove, or otherwise facilitate the transport of those children. During an emergency hearing, the Trump administration insisting it was acting at Guatemala's request to remove the more than 600 children to reunify with their parents. But the judge skeptical, saying conflicting narratives from both sides leave it unclear if those children could face harm upon their return. It's just the latest controversy in President Trump's sweeping immigration crackdown. Officials telling ABC News the administration plans to surge immigration enforcement operations in Chicago as early as this week. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem vowing to target the worst of the worst.
We've already had ongoing operations with ICE in Chicago and throughout Illinois and other states, making sure that we're upholding our laws. But we do intend to add more resources to those operations.
Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson signing an executive order to resist federal involvement.
We will not have our police officers, who are working hard every single day to drive down crime, deputized to do traffic stops and checkpoints for the president.
The order says Chicago police will not collaborate with federal agents on civil immigration enforcement and urges federal law enforcement to remain uniformed and unmasked. Chicago isn't the only city bracing for an increased federal law enforcement presence. Boston now also preparing for a potential surge.
Unlike the Trump administration, Boston follows the law.
And in Alabama, Republican Congressman Barry Moore heckled after declaring non-citizens are not protected by due process.
So due process for a citizen and a non-citizen are different.
False. False. Lies.
A tense scene there, and Selina joins us now from the White House. And Selina, Congress returns on Tuesday, and immigration isn't the only issue that members have been getting an earful about. So what should we expect on the Hill this week?
That's right, Mary. In fact, controversy over the Epstein files is expected to consume Congress when they return. There's a bipartisan effort to force a vote on the House floor to release those files. But, Mary, the most urgent task for lawmakers is avoiding a government shutdown. That deadline is October 1st, and the clock is ticking. Mary?
That shutdown looming large. Selina, thank you. President Trump says he'll sign an executive order requiring ID to vote in all U.S. elections. It's just his latest push to overhaul the nation's election laws ahead of the midterms next year. So let's bring in ABC's Alex Perche reporting from Washington. And Alex, lots of questions about whether the president has the authority to do this. Election rules are decided by the states.
That's right, Mary, and there are sure to be legal challenges to this effort. But with midterms next year, President Trump says that he is planning to sign an executive order requiring voter identification. He also wants to restrict mail-in voting and allow only paper ballots for upcoming elections. Many states expanded mail-in voting in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. It made up 43% of the turnout in the 2020 election, according to a report by the U.S. Election Assistance Commission. Now, that election, President Trump was defeated by Joe Biden, and Trump has since repeatedly claimed, without evidence, that mail-in voting enables voter fraud. But, Mary, elections, even presidential ones, are overseen by the state. So any effort by the president to influence them would likely be met with a political and legal pushback. In fact, there are already some prominent Democrats that say that this effort by President Trump is an effort to suppress the vote in reliably blue states. Mary?
Lots of questions about how this will play out. Alex, thank you. Next here tonight, after the deadly mass shooting at a Catholic school in Minneapolis, the community there now healing and praying together. And at the Vatican today, the first American pope calling for an end to the, quote, pandemic of arms. Here's ABC's Jaclyn Lee.
Tonight, the head of the Catholic Church, Pope Leo XIV, denouncing the horrific mass shooting that rocked Minneapolis, calling for an end to the pandemic of arms.
Our prayers for the victims of the tragic shooting during a school mass in the American state of Minnesota. Let us plead God to stop the pandemic of arms, large and small, which infects our world.
This weekend, Mass resuming for the first time for parishioners of Annunciation Catholic Church.
I've never, in all my years, experienced such an outpouring of love and light and hope.
The service held in the auditorium. The sanctuary remains closed after 10-year-old Harper Moisky and 8-year-old Fletcher Merkel were shot and killed while praying in the pews. 18 other people, including 15 kids, were injured.
It's a difficult memory, and my first instinct was just to rush towards where the bullets were coming from.
Father Dennis Zarin was presiding over Wednesday's service when the shooter opened fire. Emotional, as he told ABC affiliate KSTP, he did everything he could to protect the children.
If I could have got between those bullets and the kids, that's what I was hoping to do.
And for the victims still recovering tonight, dozens of handmade cards from fellow classmates can be seen adorning their hospital rooms. 11-year-old Genevieve Bissick still lying in the intensive care unit.
Genevieve's condition has been upgraded from critical to satisfactory. Several other victims are still in the hospital. Mary?
And we are thinking of them tonight. Jaclyn, thank you. Overseas now to the crisis in Gaza. The IDF saying today that the longtime spokesman for Hamas's military wing was among those killed in a deadly strike. This as Israel's security cabinet met to discuss expanding the offensive there. Dozens of Palestinians killed this weekend in a relentless round of Israeli strikes. And we do want to warn you, some of these images are disturbing. Here's ABC's Marcus Moore.
Tonight, Israel intensifying its strikes in Gaza. New bombing raids killing at least 7 people and injuring dozens more. The IDF striking a residential building in Gaza City. There, rescuers scrambling to pull people from the rubble, including several children. This is video of injured children arriving at a Gaza hospital. The IDF saying the strike targeted and killed the spokesman for Hamas's military wing. Israel's expanded military operation sparking another mass exodus. But thousands of residents deciding to stay, despite Israel calling it a combat zone. One woman saying, if we want to leave, where are we going to go? Israel's relentless bombardment leaving this Palestinian refugee camp engulfed in flames. As starvation continues to grip the most vulnerable in the region. The Hamas-run Gaza Health Ministry says 339 people have died from starvation. 124 were kids. And children here seen collecting drops of water from a dripping water tank. While protesters renewing their calls for a ceasefire and hostage deal, pleading with President Trump to lead new negotiations. One banner reading, Trump, make history.
And Mary, Israel's relentless bombardment comes amid a flurry of strikes in Yemen, including one that killed the prime minister and several other senior leaders. Prime Minister Netanyahu says those attacks will continue as long as the Houthis are a threat. Mary.
Okay, Marcus, thank you. Back here in the U.S. and a frightening scene in Pennsylvania. A young boy walking high up on the monorail tracks at Hershey Park. The dramatic rescue effort captured on camera. Here's ABC's Perry Russom.
Tonight, the terrifying video. A little boy standing dangerously on the edge of the monorail track at Hershey Park in Pennsylvania. The boy walking the metal beam as people on the ground yell for him to stop. Others yelling, "Keep going."
Stop! Keep going! No, keep going!
The young child reported missing Saturday evening, separated from his parents. He was spotted on the track 20 minutes later. Apparently overwhelmed and confused, the boy covers his ears. A bystander jumps into action, climbing on the roof of a nearby ice cream shop, clapping for the boy's attention. The man then makes the dangerous decision to jump on the track. He pulls himself up as the boy walks toward him, lifting him to safety.
Yes! Oh my God.
It comes just a month after 9-year-old Sophia Subidi, seen in this GoFundMe, tragically drowned in the wave pool at Hershey Park. The first guest to die in the park's 119-year history. Police say her death was accidental, stating it did not involve any criminal activity on the part of Hershey Park or its employees.
On yesterday's incident, Hershey Park says the monorail was closed at the time. They are thanking their guests for saving the boy, saying they are committed to the highest levels of safety. Mary.
And we are glad that he is back down safely. Perry, thank you. Now to a day of dramatic finishes and close calls at the U.S. Open. A marathon match for Taylor Townsend. She had fans on their feet. The match more than 3 hours. Townsend, though, ultimately losing. Next up, Taylor Fritz hoping to extend his run so he can become the first American male to win the U.S. Open in 22 years. And two former champions, Naomi Osaka and Coco Gauff, square off tomorrow. And now to breaking news about former New York Mayor Rudy Giuliani, hospitalized after a car crash Saturday near Manchester, New Hampshire. A spokesperson saying he suffered a fractured vertebrae as well as other cuts. Giuliani's rental car was hit from behind at high speed, though he is said to be in great spirits. And there is still much more ahead here on World News Tonight this Sunday. He was portrayed as a hero in the movies and on TV, but new evidence suggests a Tennessee sheriff may have committed an unthinkable crime. And injuries reported when a remote-controlled plane crashed during a demonstration. Next tonight, video of a serious crash involving a remote-controlled plane. This happened Saturday in Watsonville, California, during a flight demonstration. The plane veering off course and crashing just outside a nearby home. 2 people were injured, 1 seriously. The plane also damaged the house. The cause is under investigation. And tonight, details are just coming in. A death at the Burning Man Festival in Nevada is being investigated as a possible homicide. A man's body was found in one of the campsites just as the ritual bonfire was lit last night. That man has not been identified, and it's not clear how he died. The Desert Festival draws up to 80,000 people each year. And when we come back, the Tennessee sheriff, who was long considered a hero, but may have been hiding a dark secret. A made-for-Hollywood tale of a heroic Tennessee sheriff may have been based on a lie, according to investigators. Buford Pusser's story inspired the 1973 movie Walking Tall, and later a TV series and a remake starring The Rock in 2004. He claimed his wife had been shot and killed in an ambush meant for him, but Tennessee investigators now say there's evidence that the sheriff actually murdered his wife. Pusser died in 1974. And when we come back, a send-off for a college football icon. Finally tonight, the end of an era.
Not so fast, my friend.
That signature pronouncement from ESPN's iconic broadcaster, Lee Corso, part of the Saturday morning football ritual, the pregame College Game Day. 90-year-old Coach Corso signing off yesterday for the last time after almost 40 years of hosting the show. A beloved figure, Corso embraced his TV role with infectious exuberance and sometimes brutal honesty.
That dog is ugly.
Fans and well-wishers flooding the OSU stadium for Corso's last road show. A talented athlete in his own right, Corso playing quarterback for Florida State University's Seminoles. After graduating, he coached college football for 28 years. Corso is credited for spearheading a lighter side to sportscasting. A highlight of College Game Day, his tradition of donning mascots' headgear, starting with Ohio State's Brutus in 1996.
Did you think that was going to become an iconic moment in this sport?
I had no idea.
The tradition has continued.
Major upset!
And continued.
I'm going with the Trojans!
Yesterday, Corso making his final picks, choosing his alma mater, Florida State, to upset top-ranked Alabama. And he was right. And then he put on his last headgear.
Give me my first love.
Number 431. I'm Mary Bruce. Have a good night.
David Muir, the most watched newscast in America. And now, ABC's World News Tonight has won the Emmy for Best Live News Program for the third year in a row.